morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on this, your Wednesday Rise and Shine, and give God the glory. And this morning here, um, doing our, give me a second. We're going to run in two things there. So this morning here, I'm looking at the topic drugs, patent medicine, chemicals, natural remedies, natural modalities. So looking at these two concepts and why, as a culture, we are 100%, as I say, into drugs and where did this come from? And just to continue our theme, let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your word and the way that you continue to guide us. Pray that you may bless us, dear Father, as I share these thoughts. May you truly teach us your way for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking at this topic again here, which is drugs, patent medicine, chemicals, and the concept of, and also natural remedies and natural modalities. So why is it that the country that we live in, is the primary purveyor of drugs, and why is it that the drugs is such a massive influence in this country? What is it about America that makes it such a drug culture? And would the founding fathers, the pioneers, those people who lived 100 years ago, would they have recognized the use of drugs and this constant drug love for drugs that we have in our country today? So this is what I look at. So my theme again is when negative or destructive characteristics develop in a culture to the point where the founding fathers and founding principles they establish are strange and unknown to the current children of the kingdom. So if you went back more than 100 years ago, would and if there's a great gulf fix, the people who were living then, if they came about, and I show this definitively, health is one of the best way to show what has changed in the culture, in the American culture. Would they recognize the massive use of drugs and chemicals for health that's going on in the country today? Would they recognize it? Would they see it as strange that if you say herbs or anything natural, you viewed as crazy? This is how our society is. And would they recognize all the people in the country that is just dying from cancers and stuff? Where does this come from? So this is what I want to look at you with you here. So this negative, destructive element that we find in the American culture, that the American people currently today think that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, that we are just bathing ourselves in drugs, legal and illegal drugs. So we're back to our text again. Our main text is in Luke chapter 23, verse 23 onwards. And they were instant with loud voices, requiring that he might be crucified, which is Jesus. And the voices of them and the chief priests prevailed. So what happened here, this is the lead up to the crucifixion of Jesus. And just imagine now, they're about to crucify Jesus, and it is so clear in their mind that they're doing a good thing. They're defending the system. But the system that they're defending and the person that they're about to kill is actually this system. He represents the system. He's the foundation of the system, the center of the system. He is the system. But he became to a point where they had morphed and transformed themselves into Satan so much, and in all to kind of false teaching, that when he who represent the system in the purest way came, he was unrecognizable to them. And so today I've realized, whether you deal with people in church or in the secular world, if you tell them about natural remedies and natural modalities, it is a strange thing to them because they're swimming in a sea of chemicals. And they think this is normal. And they think actually they're very prideful about it. They think they're advanced and they're doing better than some young child starving in some country somewhere, especially if it's in Africa. So in their mind, they're doing better, but they don't see that their end results are massively just destructive. The cancers, the mental health, all these things, they're number one on the list. They're beating everybody. But yet they say, well, they're doing better. So here, Christ, who is the center of the system, he was not unrecognizable. Notice, and Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they required, not as he saw it. He says he's an innocent man. Like, what are you talking about? See, they became so sick, these religious leaders at this point, that they saw him as a guilty man. He's worthy of death. And a secular person saw Christ as innocent. He didn't do nothing. This is how crazy they have gotten. And this is, to me, one of the probably best illustration of what's going on in the society. That you look at the Constitution, you look at whatever you're looking at, it's they're taking away people's constitutional right every day. So notice here, and he released unto them him that for sedition and murder was cast into prison, whom they had desired, but he delivered Jesus to their will. So you can become so wild in your mind and in your imagination, in your philosophy, that a murderer and a seditionist, somebody that's trying to overcome, throw the government on January 6th, you view that person as great. And yet the people who are for the country and want to keep the country intact, you view them as bad. So Christ, the total opposite, trying to bless the country and free the country from this event. They viewed Christ as the enemy. And this is the life we're living. And as they led him away, they laid upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus. And there followed him a great company of people, and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jesus turning unto them said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourself and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in the which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bear, and the paps that which never gave suck. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, Cover us. So don't weep for me. Are you joking? You weep for yourself. If they're doing this, and I'll finish out in verse 31 there, for if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? So you're looking at the whole situation and set up here and say, wait a minute, Jesus, who is the center, the core, the whole purpose of the Jewish experience, the whole purpose of humanity and our center, they're rejecting and killing, and they're saying, we'll take a murderer and an insurrectionist, a seditionist over Jesus. And you'll be like, that is what's supposed to be mourned. When you have a group of people so convinced in their mind, and they don't know why, and I'm going to read to you in a few minutes about the Rockefellers and what they did to America. And many others after did this. That you go to the average American, you go randomly to Americans, and you start talking about anything. And in their mind, really what they're answering to you is that we need pharmaceuticals to deal with everything, not just with bacteria and viruses. Everything. That means if you're thirsty, there's a drugs for it. If you need to lose weight, there's a drugs for that. Drugs for everything. If you feel a little bit sad, if you feel a little bit under the weather, just I need a little something, doctor, to fix me up. Oh, there's a drugs for that. We're not talking about emergency medicine. We're not talking about somebody that's in massive pain because they're Humpty Dumpty and they fell off the wall, and they need somebody to put them back together by using bone saws and reconstruct them. Something that is totally unnatural because what happened to them is totally unnatural. We're talking about people that drugs, they just sink in a sea of drugs. And if you say something to them about something natural, they say it's quackery. And they will even laugh at you and thinking you're weird while they're dropping dead of all kind of cancers. And they kick in the bucket like nowhere else. You know, I remember years back I was reading these statistics because, they said numbers. The numbers never lie. And they were saying, when they talk about the life expectancy in the Western world, what they do, they throw in infant mortality. So excuse it. Because they said normally if you're in certain regions of the world that they viewed as less than, because they're not advanced, they're not civilized. If you survive beyond say one, two, or three, I can't remember the exact date. Normally, life expectancy is actually doing better than many Western countries. But normally, they don't tell you that because what happened in many of these places, the sanitary condition for birth is really the issue. Not so much that they have the most advanced drugs, but they sell Westerners, Europe and America, this lie. So they feed it to their people to keep a wicked system going. But when you look at the numbers and you check the numbers out, you see what I'm talking about. You'll be amazed that a lot of time, if you can fix the sanitation where the child is not being died because of some unsanitary condition at birth, you'll be amazed how people live much, much longer and not dying from all kind of weird diseases. The weird diseases go on in this place is amazing. And many of it can be just treated with just diet, lifestyle, natural modalities. So we continue. As I say, stick with me here. Matthew chapter 8 again. This is the healing of the Samaritan. So in Matthew chapter 8, verse 5, it says, and when Jesus was entered into Capernaum and came unto a centurion, beseeching him, saying, and came unto him, a Samaritan, beseeching him, he says, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy. And then Christ healed him, and Christ said, I have not, which is in verse 10. And when Jesus heard him, because he said, listen, just command the healing and it'll happen. This is a secular person coming to Christ and demonstrating faith that Christ didn't see in Israel. So we have Pilate on one hand. He's in a totally different mindset. And you have the centurion, which it could be any of the 10 Western tribe of Europe, because, he could be Italian, but, you don't know. But he's part of the Romans, which was the 10 Western tribe for the most part, but for mostly Italians. And he's there, and he says to Christ, just command the disease. For the sake of time, I'm just skipping here. And it will go away. Verse 10, I'll read verse 9. He says, for I'm a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say unto this man, go, and he goeth. Unto another, come, and he cometh. And to my servant, do this, and he do it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to them that followed, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. So that's important, because you could have a situation going on where the faith that the centurion is displaying, you don't even see it in Israel. It's foreign. So the mindset has become to a certain place where even Christ will like marvel, you don't even see this in Israel. And there's supposed to be people living by faith. Does that make sense? So verse 11 says, and I say unto you that many shall come from the east and the west and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom, this is my focus point this year, this week, the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There's something that gone wrong, and this time now, today, I'm going to be dealing with the Rockefellers and what they did in America, that most Americans are not aware of, and they're living under the Rockefeller medical health concept. And because of this, if you go to them and you say to the children of the kingdom, now I'm thinking, those who, that's all they know. They just know American education, and they get the American brainwashing from Rockefeller Plaza, which is where you get, I think, NBC News come out of. That they are under this delusion, and they're deceived into thinking that everybody else is uncivilized because they're not washed in drugs and they don't understand Rockefeller. So if you don't understand what Rockefeller does, you are one of the children of the kingdom, or you're one of the children of the kingdom that at least you should know. Whether or not you accept the history and the reality, because you can't change it, what Rockefeller does. You just understand that you're just so deceived, and this is the reality. And what, if somebody say, like I'm gonna read in a second, her herbs are for the healing of the nation, which is what I grew up hearing. You could see, you're like, what? Herbs? You mean drugs? And so when people wonder why there's so much drugs in America and why we just awash with drugs, drug use for everything, not just for being high. Most people don't understand what it has to do with Rockefeller. And that this is no conspiracy theory. This is just the reality. This is a fact. You can read on NIH. Actually, one of the articles I was going to take from NIH, but I find a better article written by a chiropractor. So I say I'll use him because he summarizes it better. It was the best summary I could find for you here. But you can go read any major American medical society, and they'll tell you this is how why in America we use some drugs. But it seems like most people are not aware of it, and they're just gobbling down drugs and keep blaming the Mexicans. But the Mexicans are not the reason why America is so washed in drugs. It's the Rockefellers. It's not conspiracy theory. This is again the government tells you this, but it seems like the people don't know. Notice here, but the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Because how this is for you and you don't know. And Jesus said unto the centurion, go thy way as thou hast believed. So be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed that self-same hour. Now here in Revelation chapter, before I go to my article, here in Revelation chapter 22, verse 1, 2, and 3. Notice it says, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. Okay, I have a problem here. All right. Proceed out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servant shall serve him. All right. So here, this phraseology that comes out in verse 2, that in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was the tree of life. And it bare 12 manner of fruits, and yield her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So when I grew up, I would hear this phrase in the community society I grew up in, and they would often say that the herb is for the healing of the nation. So in my mind, talking about culture, I grew up and I'm like, oh, so the herbs are for healing. So you use some comfrey, like for skin problems, for to heal bones. You use echinacea, garlic. You use different natural remedies. But then when I came to America, I realized, oh no, they think that's madness, and I'm like, why? Oh, Rockefeller, and I'm like, that's very interesting. So they think it's craziness. You're quack. And I remember there was a doctor I used to deal with called Dr. Sarge. He was in New Jersey by the shore, and he said he was actually investigated and he even got, I think, arrested. I think if my memory serves me right. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, yeah, they will come after you. They'll send the FBI and stuff like you that you're doing a crime to promote natural remedies. He said, yeah, this is the culture we live in. And I was amazed because I grew up and, you get some bush and you put it in a pot and you boil it and you drink it. You drink a tea. So what do you do with like a peppermint? Oh, I guess that's just a tea. So you can't use herbs for healing? No, in the past he said that was like illegal. I was like, the goons will come and get you. And I was like, that's amazing. So the government will go after you. Why? And then you start learning about Rockefeller. And I'm like, so the American people are under siege to use natural God's plans? Oh, they don't believe in God. They believe they evolved. That's very strange. And so I started learning. And I was like, this is amazing. So I've been going backwards. over the years, I tried to understand what happened, why we have such high rates of cancer. And if you deal with after birth, about a year, 2, 3 years after birth, that the average person in the world does better than Americans. But most Americans don't even know this. So I'll read this article now. And this one here is on what is going on within the with this thing. So this is now this is what I'm here for now. So they okay my time. So this article is written by Eric Schmid, and he's a chiropractor, and is found at Meridian Health Clinic. That's where I found it. And the title of the article, very interesting article. As I said, you can find this type of talk just in about anywhere. But I think this article gave me a good summary, so I'm using it. How Rockefeller created the business of Western medicine. So not about healing the American people, but the business. So here we go. Written 2019. So if we get a piece of this here. So notice here, as alternative medicine practitioner, I have a lot of conversation with patients who are disenchanted with the current Western medicine. This disenchantment is both related to the quality of care they receive and also the way in which the business of Western medicine is conducted. Notice he calls it the business, nothing to do with the people. This post is a brief historical look at the business of Western medicine. This article will not directly address aspects of patient care. Instead, it will focus on the origin of our current medical business model. As someone who has been practicing medicine for over 10 years, I try to keep an open mind and appreciate both the good and the bad of this that coexist in Western system. In order to understand our current medical system, it is helpful to take a look back at the history of medicine in America. The business story of Western medicine, in the modern sense, started with John D. Rockefeller, 1839 to 1937. Rockefeller, so notice here, he lived in the early to mid 1800s to 1937. That's important for the statement I'm going to read later. Rockefeller is widely considered the wealthiest American of all time and the richest person in modern history. Rockefeller is probably most famous for securing a monopoly in America's oil market, but many people haven't heard the rest of the story. By the turn of the 20th century, Rockefeller controlled 90% of all petroleum refineries in America through ownership of Standard Oil Company, later split to Mobil, Chevron, Exxon, etc. Currently, concurrently, around 1900, the science world was getting excited about new petrochemicals and the ability to create a variety of um, of new new compounds from oil. Some of the first products derived from petrochemicals were plastics, but organic chemicals knew that oil had the potential to create far more than plastic toys. During the same era, 1900s, scientists were doing groundbreaking work to understand the basic mechanics of life and human health. It was during this time that most of the essential vitamins were discovered, including B1, B12, biotin, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, etc. By identifying these vitamins, science took a huge step forward and enabled simple vitamin remedies to cure conditions that were caused by vitamin deficiencies such as scurvy and rickets. And of course, scientists were also involved in research to recreate synthetic versions of these vitamins in a laboratory. In 1935, vitamin C became the first vitamin to be artificially synthesized in Switzerland. Rockefeller was smart enough to see this as a big opportunity, with the possibility that vitamins and medications could be developed by petroleum. He saw the chance to control and monopolize multiple industries at once: petroleum, chemical, and medical. And of course, petrochemicals were ideal from a business perspective because they could be patented, owned, and sold for high profits. But there's a big problem with Rockefeller's plan. Natural and herbal medicines were very popular in America during the early 1900s. You would not believe this, right? This is crazy. If you live now, you'll be like, nah, drugs, drugs, drugs. Notice here, almost one half of medical colleges and doctors in America were practicing holistic medicine, using extensive knowledge from Europe and Native American traditions. Rockefeller knew that to get total control of medical industry, he would have to expunge the competition. Rockefeller first moved was to use his vast wealth from oil to purchase part of the German pharmaceutical company IG Farben. And he said, look up Farben involvement in World War II because I think they were the ones that was put by Adolf Hitler to gas and kill poison the Jews. Anyhow, now that he controlled a drug manufacturing company, he could move forward with his plan to eliminate the competition. In the early 1900s, there were a variety of doctors and healing modalities in America. Some of the medical specialties include chiropractic, naturopathic, homeopathic, holistic medicine, and herbal medicine. To eliminate the competition, Rockefeller, he hired a contractor named Abraham Flexner to submit a report to Congress in 1910. This report concluded that there were too many doctors and medical schools in America, and that all natural healing modalities, which had existed for hundreds of years, were unscientific quackery. And I remember hearing that word first in America. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Quackery. Anyhow, the report called for the standardization of medical education, whereby only AMA, the American Medical Association, another monopoly, would be allowed to grant medical school licensure in the United States. Certainly, Flexner's report did had some valid points, but unfortunately, the motives for the report were entirely driven by Rockefeller's desire for complete control of the medical system. Because of the report, Congress acted upon the Flexner's recommendation and changed laws related to medical practice. Incredibly, allopathic medicine became the standard modality, even though at the time its main treatment method were bloodletting, surgery, quite barbaric at the time, and the injection of toxic heavy metals, lead and mercury, to the supposedly displaced medicine. With the new laws in place, Rockefeller teamed up with Andrew Carnegie and started funding medical schools all over America at the strict, on the strict condition that they only taught allopathic medicine, which is that, mercury and bloodletting. And you can see Ellen G. White talk about this in the book Ministry of Healing. I'll read it in a second. The poisons that they would give to people. Through the power of their huge grants, this powerful team systematically dismantled the previous curricula of these medical schools, removing any mention of healing power of herbs and natural treatments. Teachings on diet and other natural non-drug treatments were also completely removed from medical programs. So if you go to a medical school today, there will be no talk of herbs, no talk of natural treatments, no talk of diet, no talk of any natural modalities. It just be drugs, and that's it. Because remember, they creating the drugs, so they have to teach everybody to do drugs. So that's why if you go to like a doctor today, they'll probably laugh you out of the town, because for them they're so in on this drug mindset. They don't know nothing about natural unless they did it by themselves. After removing traditional medicine for medical school, Rockefeller made sure to secure his monopoly by launching a targeted smear campaign against his competitors. homeopathy and natural medicines were discredited and demonized through the newspapers and other media of the time. Some doctors were even jailed for using natural medicine treatments, including treatments that had been used safely and effectively for decades. In a very short time, medical college were all homogenized. All the students were taught the same allopathic system, and medicine were now defined as a process of prescribing patent drugs. A pill for an ill became the mindset of American medicine. So whatever you're dealing with, anything you have a pain, a sore, is a pill you need for that ill. One shocking fact that I found, this is the person writing the article, while researching this post was that Rockefeller didn't stop at US border. He actually went into China to spread Western medicine. Notice it's Western medicine. So if you go to anywhere and they're practicing certain things, they're practicing Western medicine, which is a pill for every ill. Drugs. Upon hearing this, actually got chills down my spine. Rockefeller wasn't content with just wiping out traditional medicine in America. He saw a bigger market on the other side of the world and wanted to remove traditional Chinese medicine from China, which is a bigger market. So that would have been amazing. We wouldn't have known about many of the herbs that we now use. I use because he would have destroyed it. What a demon of a person. So notice here, traditional medicine. Luckily, his venture in China mostly failed, and the practice of traditional Chinese medicine was preserved for centuries to come. To quickly summarize what happened in China, the China Medical Board, CMB, was created in 1914 by the Rockefeller Foundation and provided a $12 million grant. The Rockefellers' goal was to modernize medical education, and to improve the practice of medicine in China. What a craziness. They started to build a hospital in Beijing, which is the Peking, I think I got it right, Peking Union Medical College, opened in 1919. But they were unable to expand to other locations as planned due to the mounting expenses. In short, the diligent work of Rockefeller and Carnegie was a smashing success, quote unquote. They crushed the underfunded grassroots competition and created our current medical system. This system continues today wherein big pharma makes large donation to medical schools to brainwash the kids. No, that's me saying that. To medical schools in exchange for teaching the medical students to use their patent drugs. So you don't go to school to get a PhD or MD or whatever they get to help sick people. You go there to figure out which drugs to give for what ill. So here's the drugs, give the drugs to the people. So whatever the person comes in, there's a drug or a surgery. That's it. Notice here, as part of this system, many alternative treatments are criminalized. For example, by law, it is illegal to treat cancer with any modality except chemotherapy, surgery, or radiation. So you're going to cut them, you're going to radiate them, or you're going to poison them. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. I remember years ago, I was at a church and started visiting this church. And the first Sabbath, they had like prayer requests. They had prayer requests, and I never heard so much prayer requests. And it was a church in the Republican Wealth Belt in New Jersey, which is the 287 corridor. And so it was the best people, so to speak, in the society, the brightest, the richest, and the whitest people in the society. I'm just telling you straight, talking to you straight here. And I remember I've never heard in my life the amount of prayer for cancer. I'm like, what is going on? Not that would people die from cancer, and it was mostly again that group of people. But I was shocked, and then I said, okay, probably an anomaly. It was just a one Sabbath thing. It was Sabbath after Sabbath, and I was like, what's good? Because you think the more money, the more drugs is the healthier the person is supposed to be. That's what we're told. And then the people off in sub-Sahara, they're the unhealthy. You know, you can see sub-Sahara, some kid with flies all over them. And that's the image they tell us on NBC News, because that's the Rockefeller people. Notice here, as part of the system, cancer modality except chemotherapy and radiation, it is actually criminal felony for a medical practitioner to treat cancer with anything but these three modalities. Criminal. Where did this come from? This is Rockefeller. So this is a normal thing in America, that Americans, when they think cancer, they think Rockefeller. They don't think Rockefeller, but you know what I'm saying. Rockefeller won. And they don't know. They don't know that they're in a delusion. It is actually criminal felony for a medical practitioner to treat cancer with anything but these three modalities. Why is this the case? Follow the money, follow the Rockefellers and the Carnegie. But these are the heroes of our society. But these are the ones control the people. So they think that the people in sub-Sahara is deceived. But the most deceived people are the people in America. But they don't know it, because they're going on a path of period and destruction, and they don't understand why. The average cost of cancer treatment is $150,000. So clearly, Rockefeller and his precedents, I guess people follow him, were keen to keep the monopoly on this one, which is true. This is amazing. I think this is better than oil. Drugs is amazing. The cost. He said $150,000. Is this so? That's a lot of money. And of course, the American Cancer Society was founded by none other than John D. Rockefeller in 1930. So he controlled the AMA. He formed the American Cancer Society. And what country has more dead bodies piling up with cancer? Very fascinating. Somebody says it's just all a big coincidence. Everything's always a big coincidence if you delusional. Notice here, hopefully this post will okay, I'll leave him there. He has some notes. And so yeah, I'll take that one. And okay, yeah. So I thought it was good. I repeat for you again, so if you want to read that post, and then, but you can go on NIH and many medical association and medical people explain why America. So say you go and you have a disease. What disease? Any disease, and you just have any disease. You don't if you, unless you have, like, I don't know, type 1, but if you have type 2 or whatever, diabetes, you say diabetes, you wouldn't go, the doctor is not trained when he hear the word diabetes to think natural modalities, exercise, diet, lifestyle, herbs. What he hears, drugs. That's what he's trained for. So he's trained for years to hear drugs. So you come along and say, what are you talking about? Just change your diet. No, that's not what you do. Person come and say, well, I'm obese. You say, okay, so diet and exercise. No, the doctor here, operation. You need to do a lap band, I think it's called. You need to do bariatric surgery. You need to take this drugs, that drugs. So that's the training. So you're not going to somebody per se for any other reason. You're just going there because that's what he's trained for. So the hospitals are just there to do drugs. So that's why when we were going through the pestilence 19, obviously the only solution for the pestilence, which was coming out of a lab, was something out of a lab. So you couldn't say, well, are people deficient in vitamin D? Are people deficient in zinc, selenium? You couldn't say that. Because what's the only solution? Drugs. And if you said that, right now they put a link. If you put up a video online, they just put a link and say the government don't is only a vaccine, right? That you can get. Nothing else can be done for you. So that's basically the mindset that is there. And so it's normalized now in America. There is no other concept. And so if you talk to the people now, you have people will literally think you're stupid. And think, especially worse if my opinion, as if especially you have to have this idea in your mind that there's the herb or for the healing of the nation and the nations. And you dare go say that, they think, oh, because you're probably you're not evolved and civilized. And they're very disrespectful. Yet you look at their outcome. You look at the amount of, like with the thalidomide, scared, or not scared, the reality, where these kids were born without hands. And you say, but that's the drugs. And they're just like marching head on, just gobbling up that drugs because they're Western and it's Western medicine. They're defending it. How dare you question it? And they think you're the fool. And then when you look at what happened with the talcum powder, they're constantly suing their government. And I'm thinking, why they don't stop suing the government and go figure out why the government and the American FBI and stuff so aggressive, and Google and all them to promote drugs only. Most people don't know. So they think you're the idiot if you can't even consider drinking water or exercising as a way to deal with disease. And if you remember this story when you have time, look at Premarin. Premarin is one of the best examples because they had so much of the American women drinking horse urine. It wasn't drinking it. They were taking the tablet. And why I like talking about that, because if you're saying patent medicine and synthesized medicine is the only way, how you have hormonal problems? You have all these women in America was taking something that they end up claiming caused cancer. But it was horse urine. It was pregnant mare urine, pregnant mare urine, which is Premarin. So they will get the pregnant mare and get the urine and make it into, I guess, powder. And then give the urine to women. And the women would not drink the urine, but take the powder urine or the tablet urine. But yet, if you go to the same people now that laugh you to scorn, like you're an idiot, how dare you question our drug culture? And you say, okay, but how? What is urine? That's Egyptian witchcraft. That's African witchcraft. They'll be like, what are you talking about? You're taking urine. That's not patent medicine. And you don't see that's going to be bad for you. You're taking a caustic substance that's excreted from a cow. I was going to say a cow. Might as well take a cow urine too. And you're drinking that. You mean you're eating that every day, and you don't see that's going to cause you ill health. You see, that's the mindset. You could be so just like the Pharisees. You're so deceived that in your mind you think you're advanced and you're superior to the kids in sub-Sahara with flies all over them and dying of starvation. And because they're dying over there, you think, oh, I'm superior because, see, I'm fat. I'm fat and flourishing. And I'm taking my urine every day. And I find that fascinating because I'm looking at it and thinking, they don't see they're giving you urine. What good can come of that? And when that broke out that the women were dying of cancers, I'm thinking, how did they see this as advanced? And yet they're proud of this urine, all this urine they've been taking, and thinking that they're above everybody. So that's where the problem is. You can have a culture become so engrossed in their pride. Because this is ultimately, if somebody you ask me, what's really going on here? Pride. Somebody so prideful that they get them with pride and say, oh, this is advanced medicine, bloodletting, mercury, and all that type of stuff. And all you did dropping like dead, like flies. I'm going to read a statement now. This statement here by Ellen G. White. Ellen G. White. And only repeat it because for Google to pick up, translate it properly. So this statement is written by Ellen G. White, and it's written is the book Ministry of Healing, right? So the book Ministry of Healing was written 1905. I just wanted to get that here for you, 1905. So remember what I just read about Rockefeller, right? So what I just read about Rockefeller, yeah, I won't edit here. What I've just read about Rockefeller is important because remember, Rockefeller is putting together everything 1910. I think Ellen G. White dies 1916. So the timeline of this book is very important because this is in the midst of all this drugs, and patent medicine. So I want you to read this, but I want to read this to you, but I don't want you to miss the timing of it because you could believe this is in the 1800s. This is actually towards the end of her ministry. So this book is more important to our time. And the statement I'm going to read is more important to our time because it's the end of the ministry. Ministry of Healing, page 125 to 127, 1905. This is when Rockefeller is making his move. And the big move came in 1910. So very important. Notice here, education in health principles was never more needed than now. Notwithstanding the wonderful progress in so many lines related to the comfort and convenience of life, even to sanitary matters and to the treatment of disease, the decline of physical vigor and the power of endurance is alarming. It demands the attention of all who have at heart the well being of their fellow men. So I'll pause there. So if you look at the amount of disability and where the disability is strongest, where you have kids being born, where they have the biggest problem with birth rate. But I think they have not, the society we live in has not come to a point to realize they're washing themselves in drugs. And the debility and disability, the Down syndromes, the disabilities, the stuff is alarming. But they have not figured it out because Rockefeller has a hold on them, although he's dead. Notice here. Notice what she says next. She said, our artificial civilization is encouraging evils destructive of sound principles. Ha! I read it again. Powerful. How does she describe 1905? That we have an artificial civilization and your body needs organic natural foods, but we don't get that anymore. Think about it. She's writing this before the industrial revolution, the chemical revolution, GMO, all this type of stuff. It's gotten worse. And look at the people as you go around. The people as you go around, you can see them that they're under some serious chemicals. Notice here, our artificial our artificial civilization is encouraging evils destructive of sound principles. Customs and fashions are at war with nature. The practices they enjoin and the indulgences they foster are steadily lessening both physical and mental strength and bringing upon the race an intolerable burden. Intolerable burden. Intemperance and crime, disease and wretchedness are everywhere. Many transgress the laws of health through ignorance, and they need instruction. But the greater number know better than they do. They need to be impressed with the importance of making their knowledge a guide of life. The physician has many opportunities both of imparting a knowledge of health principles and of showing the importance of putting them in practice. By right instructions, he can do much to correct evils that are working untold harm. Instruct Doctors don't instruct anybody anymore. They just come and you go to them and say, Doctor, I have this, and they say, here's the drugs. Boom, out. Big money. A practice that is laying the foundation of a vast amount of diseases and even more serious evils is the free use of poisonous drugs. When attacked by disease, many will not take the trouble to search out the cause of their illness. The chief anxiety is to rid themselves of the pain and inconvenience. So they resort to patent nostrums, which is what we call patent medicine, of whose real property they know little, and they apply to a physician for some remedy to counteract the results of their misdoing, but with no thought of making a change in their unhelpful habits. If immediate benefits is not realized, another medicine is tried, and then another. Thus the evil continues. People need to be taught that drugs do not cure disease. Have you ever heard about the drugs that cure disease? Never. What happened? You remember they told us when the pestilence 19 started that you will take this thing with the spike protein and it will stop you from getting infection. It make you bulletproof to get an infection in your lungs. And what happened? But you see, but people are duped and they just keep going on as they drop dead. Drugs do not cure disease. It is true, they sometimes afford present relief, and the patient appears to recover as a result of their use. This is because nature has sufficient vital force to expel the poison and to correct the conditions that cause the disease. Health is recovered in spite of the drugs, not because of the drugs. But in most cases, the drugs only change the form and location of the disease. Today, we will say that is mutation. I'll give you an example. They started with this thing called Roundup. Again, one of the big juggernauts that's killing the society and making more disability in the society. Look at the people. And what it is that they give this Roundup, and now they're saying the Roundup is the weeds are becoming Roundup resistant. You didn't get that one. It's crazy what's going on. They're killing the society, and the society would say, I need to be arrested by the FBI because I'm doing wrong to the community. This is how we've gone crazy. Often the effects of the poison seem to be overcome for a time, but the result remain in the system and work greater harm later period. It's going to come back to bite them, all this heap of vaccine that they're doing. Notice here, by the use of poisonous drugs, many bring upon themselves lifelong illness, and many lives are lost that might be saved by the use of natural methods of healing. So in her time, Adventism and Adventist hospitals were actually still doing some natural. The goons from the FBI shut that down because of Rockefeller. And the Adventist church had to bow to it. I don't know if they had to bow to it, but they bowed to it. And they fell in line also, just like how they fell in line with Revelation 13. When the FBI go after them, they decide to change the teaching of Revelation 13 and say it's all in the future. They become prejuristic or futuristic, I don't know. Crazy. You when the government go after you, people just buckle and just like, listen, we're going to change the teaching. We're not going to teach Revelation 13 the way we used to because the FBI will go after us. What they call him? What was the big guy in the FBI that used to kill up evil people and stuff like that, and then tell us that we must fear of the KGB. They're worse than the KGB. So notice here, by the use of poisonous drugs, many are bringing upon themselves lifelong illness, and many lives are lost that might be saved by the use of natural methods of healing. The poisons contained in many so-called remedies create habits and appetites. Oh, and I want to say, notice here, you've known people who would have taken drugs, legal or illegal drugs, and for the rest of their life until they die, they have an illness that they can't get over. It damaged them permanently. This is crazy. The poisons contained in many so-called remedies create habits and appetites that mean ruin for both soul and body. What are you talking about, soul and body? Person go to hell because of the drugs? Huh? Many of the popular nostrums called patent medicine. Now here she used the word patent medicine, what we are familiar with. That's the phrase we use. 1905 now. And even some of the drugs dispensed by physicians act a part in laying the foundation of the liquor habit. You think the issue that say what's going on with all this drug business, and you see people with morphine and the opiate and all that type of stuff, and you're not realizing that the thing you're dealing with the opium and all that, is the doctor prescription. Notice she said it in 1905. She says the drug use you're seeing with opium is coming from the patent medicine, the alcohol, the liquor. What happened recently with the Shackler family? This was the opiates, and then people went from opiates to opium to all the other drugs. Uh-huh. You see, she said this in 1905, and what has she's gotten? Why do I sit here and talk? Because this is now history. In other words, the 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 the, the Rockefellers used the FBI and stuff like that to put in America this system. Now all of their kids now are being born with all kind of disability. All the people now are sick, and cancer now reigns supreme. The same thing they were supposed to fix with the American Cancer Society. It's gotten worse. That's what makes it fascinating. Like I'm just recounting history now because all the goon behavior, I haven't heard of anybody get arrested. Hopefully, I'm not going to be the first for talking like this recently. Because what it is that they have been burying their loved ones. You can imagine you're at the FBI, you have to enforce this, and you're going to stop everybody from using herbs. And then now all your loved ones just keep getting disability. You look at what's going on in society. It's a horror show. But Rockefeller won. He created this horror show. And the Shacklers and families like Carnegie, they want the money. But look what they have done to our society. And the number one country in the world for these disabilities. Notice here, he says, even some of the drugs dispensed by physicians, some of them, act a part in laying the foundation of the liquor habit, the opium habit, the morphine habit that are so terrible curse in the society. She don't say it's like 100%, and all the drugs, but a lot of drugs. I remember I was watching a documentary where they're talking about how the drugs used for AIDS can be used to get you high. I was like, amazing. These drugs, there's something else. The only hope is in better things is to education of the people in the right principles. Let physicians teach the people that restorative power is not in drugs. You can't restore with drugs. Does that make sense? Drug is for emergency medicine. Yeah, I don't see having any use. To restore the body to health, you can't use drugs. But if you say, as I say, I've known people. Here's the thing: it's not the thing about a secular doctor that would think you're nuts. Like a secular doctor would think I'm strange. It's when you run into like an Adventist doctor and they'll laugh you to scorn. And I'm like, they're so deluded. They really believe that if you have a deficiency in vitamin C, you shouldn't use orange, cherries. Like, they're quacks. But they thinking you quack. You crazy. What are you talking about? Wow. Let physicians teach the people that restorative power is not in drugs, but in nature. What? Diseases and effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained, unhelpful conditions should be changed, wrong habits corrected. Then nature is to be assisted in her effort to expel impurities, to reestablish right conditions in the system. So that's why charcoal, bentonite clay is so important. But somebody said, like charcoal is used in air filter and water filter. What are you talking about? I'm like, really? Bentonite clay, that's used in like some my industrial operation. Uh-huh. Okay. So are you going to, as he says, expel the impurities? How about, these various different things? My brain slipped me here. But for causing you to go to the toilet. You don't take stuff to go to the toilet if you're clogged up. Oh no, it's just drugs. Fascinating. So this is why we have come. So if you go now and you say to the average American that there's natural, they don't know why they're drugs. They don't know why they only use drugs. They don't know what Rockefeller did to them. Sad. But these are destructive elements in the society that we have to move away from and understand that the society is deceived and that there's a Satan and he has his people that destroy the society, and the society is deluded into thinking that, oh no, we evolve and we're just here and nothing is going on. There's no deception. But you can see the disability, you can see the sicknesses. We have to go natural unless there's an emergency. Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your word in this day. I pray, the Lord, you may bless us that we might open our eyes and see spiritual wickedness in high places, and may we be disabuse of these things for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.